Today is Monday, September 9th, and it's the Pinstripe Post. My name is Ryan Sampson. He's Joel Sherman. A lot has happened in Yankees baseball in this past week since we last spoke to Joel. The Yankees might have a closer situation, or I think we definitely do, considering they demoted Clay Holmes and might be going a new closer. Garrett Cole looked really well. The Yankees finally won a series against the Cubs. The offense was not so great, and we're going to talk all about it and break it all down here on the Pinstripe Post. We appreciate you as always. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button on the New York Post Sports YouTube channel. And Joel, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. We're in that part of the year where the football has begun. We got two teams in New York who are in the race, so there'll be a game in New York every day, pretty much the rest of the year, that has a lot of meaning, which is, you're hoping if you're covering this that people care. And especially once the football season starts, you're hoping people care. Otherwise, people could tune out pretty quickly. But maybe Giant fans are already ready to do that. So
I would say that's fair to say, Joel. That was a brutal game for the Giants yesterday. But we're here to talk.
Daniel Jones is the Alex Verdugo of quarterbacks. Anyway, go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Alex Verdugo, I don't know if he's walking out to the fans booing him like the stadium yesterday, like Daniel Jones was, which was kind of ugly. And I despise fans like that. That was unreal that they waited out there for him after the game. But Joel, I want to talk to you about, since I said there is a lot that happened with this team, I kind of want to play this game of what's real and what's not real with you for first pitch, considering we kind of have to figure out where we're at with this Yankee squad. The AL East is a tight race. It's going to be like this the whole way, it feels like. And to your point, it's going to be important every single game. You're going to be watching something in New York. And for the Yankees, it's a matter of, are they going to win this division, or are they going to be playing for that wild card spot? The first thing I got to ask you about what's real and what's not real about this Yankee squad is the closer situation. It's funny, since we talked to you on last Monday, Clay Holmes blows his 11th save on Tuesday night and gives up that grand slam. It got very ugly very quickly. I heard you talk about it on the show with John Heyman, and I guess the start there is Luke Weaver the temporary closer here, or do you think that way Boone had said it, we have to get creative? That is way the situation is going to play out for the Yankees down the stretch, where it's going to be closer by committee. It's going to be matchups. It's going to be all that.
Yeah, Ryan, one of the things I think about with the Yankees a lot, and it feels to me they do this way more than the 62 people who've managed the Mets over the last 30 years, is they're not doing something and they're mad that you're even asking until they do it, right? Like, we're not changing closers. We're not changing closers. Well, we're changing closers. They've done this in some version a lot. During Boone's time. They did it during Girardi's. Girardi was even more obstinate when he would finally admit that what everybody was seeing, they were seeing too. And I know that teams have to have more patience than the average talk radio caller or baseball columnist for the New York Post. But it was time they try something else. And I think we're going to find out if Aaron Boone is a wartime consigliere, because I think maybe the rest of the year, but certainly in the postseason, I think they should play Legion ball, except for when Cole starts. I think everybody else is on a, code red, 4-alarm, sometimes I wonder, again, watching the Yankees, if they understand the urgency of the postseason as it's going along, and they're not just using people in their lanes as if this was May 17th. I think that the bullpen has shown itself shaky enough, and that there's not pedigree beyond Cole enough. Cole gets some rope. Everyone else, I think, is on a who would be the best guy at this moment. Maybe it will be Clay Holmes. Maybe it'll be Luke Weaver. Maybe it will be Netsor Cortez. Maybe it will be Luis Gil starting game 2, but being needed in game 5 of a playoff series to close a game. I think they need to play Legion ball, because there is no obvious, this is the guy you give the ball to. I'm unfortunately old enough. I covered the 1993 World Series, and I watched Jim Fregosi go down with Mitch Williams. And even then, when nobody ever thought about, use the other guy, I'm like, why is he not using Roger Mason? Roger Mason is getting everybody out. And I know that Roger Mason didn't do this job during the season, but it's not 162 games anymore. It's best of one every day. And I think that the Yankees are going to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable And that's not having these set roles. I thought it was good the other day that like Nestor Cortez was on a roll. Don't just pull him. He's clearly in control of the game. And if he's your best option, stick with your best option. Use your eyes. What are you seeing from people? Fuck lanes. Like lanes are a good thing to know if you're winning 7-2 and you want to try to do it out. But like most playoff games aren't going to be that. And I just don't see going down in flames with oh, this was such a good idea at 3:00.
Well, to your point, Joel, and I think what you to the real, not real, the bullpen is tied into the closer situation because it felt like the bullpen pitched better this weekend. I mean, you got the great performance to your point of Nestor on Saturday, but it felt like the bullpen was performing better because, oh, hey, by the way, this closer role, it's up for grabs. Like we're kind of opening the door here for everyone. It could be a Canely. If we have a bunch of lefties with that changeup, we can try and get some lefties out. It could be, I don't know, would they dare to go to Jake Cousins? Would they dare to go to Tim Hill? I mean, it's kind of that, to your point, Legion ball, where you're playing it by situation, by day, and you're in a tight race. And that's the other thing.
I think they're the 2019 Nationals. The Nationals didn't have faith in much of their bullpen, and they kept using Patrick Corbin and Scherzer and when they needed them out of the bullpen. And I just think the Yankees haven't won a World Series in a long time. There's a lot of people's maybe jobs and reputations on the line here, and to just defiantly suggest like shoving somebody in. By the way, Clay Holmes might pitch well in October. Clay Holmes is a talented guy.
No, he is.
I understand how bad it looks. Do you know? I think the guy, I'm 90% positive of this, the guy who led the major leagues in blown saves last year was Emmanuel Clase. I think he had like 12, 13 blown saves last year. And he's probably the best closer in baseball this year. Him and Iglesias and Hader are like great. And so Clay Holmes been really good for 4 years.
Yeah.
And maybe he needed to do this, and maybe he'll be good again. But you've got to trust your eyes. Once ball 1, ball 2 starts, and he's hanging pitch, like you got to get him out. You can't just play this. He's my guy.
He's my closer.
Mitch Williams is my closer. Well, your season's over, man. And I think they have to be comfortable playing Legion ball. I really do, because I don't think that this group of relievers, as they did this regenerative thing again, they're really good at it. Like, who was Luke Weaver before he came to them? Yep. Who was Jake Cousins? Who was Tim Hill? They've all pitched better for the Yankees than they've ever pitched before in the major leagues. The Yankees are very good at cleaning up relievers, getting them to the pitchers. But nobody is I believe, 100% in these guys. And, like, of all those guys, it's going to sound crazy, but I'm obviously not in their clubhouse any more than 50 minutes a day when I'm there, and a little bit in the post game. The vibe I get is the most confident guy with the ball is Tim Hill. Like, that guy feels like, this is my stuff. I'm not afraid, and I'm going to do that. And Ryan, we watch a lot of playoffs. If you cover the Yankees over the years, they're in the playoffs every year. You see what it takes. I've covered every playoff since 1989 to the end. It's the guys who are not afraid of the moment who tend to rise up at that time of year. Maybe I'm misreading it, but man, Tim Hill seems to be completely fearless. Now, his stuff, I don't know how deep in a game you want to trust it. But that seems like a guy, like, give me the ball, lefty, righty, an inning, 2 innings. He's actually been pretty impressive.
No, he has. He's shined over the past couple of weeks. So the other part of real, not real is the Nestor Cortez. He had his quotes after the game, and he pitched phenomenally on Saturday in relief of Clark Schmidt, who pitched really well as to that point in the game, in his first game back. Nestor had some honest and truth in saying, I've took the ball on opening day when Garrett Cole went down with an injury. I was a workhorse for them this year. Do I not like doing this? Was I upset when they told me that I'm going to go in the bullpen? Yes, obviously I was. But, I'm not afraid of the challenge, almost to what your point. He's not afraid of the challenge. If this is what the team wants me to do, I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to do my best. And, if this is my role down the stretch, so be it. I thought he had the right attitude after the game, because that is honesty and truth. And that's kind of what you want to hear of an athlete. But I think, Joel, the real not real is this going to be Nestor Cortez's role? Because and maybe I'm crazy, a couple of years ago when Nestor was at his best, he's a guy who can come out of the bullpen. He's a guy who can give you a spot start. He's a guy who you can throw in probably in late inning leverage situations as well. I feel like I could put him in any spot, and he's going to be able to take the ball and give me some of the best innings of the entire rotation or even bullpen.
Yeah, so I think the last time we did the show, the Yankees were still lying to everyone and saying they didn't know what they were going to do when I'm sorry, they hadn't told everyone. They weren't lying. They were lying about what they didn't know what to do. And I said I would put Hill in the bullpen, but I think they're going to put Cortez in the bullpen. I think the last time we did the show,
yes,
I felt like that's where they were angling. I think he's a perfect guy for Legion ball, because I think you could use him in any situation. At this point, I would think with full health, if they got into it, remember, part of this becomes if you're in a best of three, who's starting? So Cole's going to, and it gets to a whole other thing. Like, say you need game 162, but if you lose, you're playing a best of three and you have Cole available. I mean, that's for down the line discussion thing. But I think if they were in a best of three, is it Cole, Hill, and Rodon? Is it Cole, Schmidt, and Rodon? And they try Hill and Cortez's arms in the bullpen. So I don't think Cortez makes a three-man rotation. One of the things I think I've been pretty consistent about on this show, and it's the Tim Hill thing, is I know Nestor Cortez is not afraid. That guy is not afraid. Is Carlos Rodon afraid? I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
In the postseason, I don't think Luis Hill would be afraid. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. I think he thinks he should never be hit. And by the way, when he throws the ball near the plate, it's like a disappear ball. Like, I don't know what he's doing, but people just don't see it. If he limits his walks, he's incredibly difficult to hit when he has his full arm. And that's why I think they should be playing. Like, I think the answer to this is to say to guys like Nestor Cortez, we're trying to win the division. And if this team wins the division, we're on Operation 11, which is, can we win 11 games? And we will do whatever we have to win 11 games. And I think that's everyone's on call except for Cole, who's starting. Everyone else is the best use. Because so if you're playing a best of five, they win the division. I would ask you, Ryan, are the starting pitchers Rodon, Cole, Hill, and Schmidt? In which case, I think Cortez has a valuable role in the bullpen.
I would agree.
Does Stroman? Or is Stroman put on just in case, like, Hill blows up and you need somebody to cover the innings and you got to bring him in? Like, does he just become like the 13th guy on a staff, 12th guy, whatever you're doing on a staff? I don't know the answer to that.
No.
But it's I think we brought this up last week also, Ryan. It's like funny. The Cashman-Stroman fight is about him saying Stroman is not good enough to pitch in the rotation. That's why we didn't want to give up too much to Toronto 3-4 years ago. I just think with full health, it's hard to see how he even fits into a four-man rotation. Unless Hill stuff will play up so much in the pen that we want to do that. But it seems pretty clear if you're putting him back in the rotation now, your value point, if you're the Yankees, is we'd rather try to get 18 outs from you than 3 to 6 outs from you.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting situation too with Stroman is, and I think this alludes a little bit to Cortez's comments, about him taking the opening day starter role. I know he kind of, I think you've been like a proponent of the opening day role doesn't mean shit. Like, it's just pomp and circumstance for fans, right? But
yeah, and he was available and a veteran.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. So the Yankees were thrown in this situation with Cole with that injury. It's like, okay, now who's going to be the opening day starter? You could have gone to Stroman, but Stroman had his routine and he really wanted to be the opening day Bronx, to start a Yankee home starter. So, like, for me, I guess that's the question for you, Joel, is does Boone, does Cashman, do they have an allegiance to Stroman here? And like, hey, we're still committed to you financially again next year. Are you going to get a spot in this playoff rotation? So that's kind of like that real, not real part again with Nestor, Schmidt, Gil, and Stroman, because it feels like no matter what, it's going to be Cole and Rodon as two of the three or two of the four starters, right? It's those other guys is how they're going to play that out.
So again, I always don't listen to people, watch people, especially the Yankees. Doesn't matter what they say, it's what they do. It didn't go through, but let's not forget, the Yankees were trying to Jordan Montgomery, Nestor Cortez a couple of weeks ago at the trade deadline. They would have done that. If they could have pulled it off, they would have done it. And they didn't pull it off. But the Yankees seem to like Nestor Cortez a lot less than, say, I do. I just put great value in fearlessness. You're playing in New York. You're going to play October games. You got to have some fortitude. I like that about him. And in a way, they're committed to him next year also. Next year is his walk year. It's and also, I don't know if people recognize it. Stroman went over 140 innings, which means his 2026 contract got guaranteed at $18 million. So the Yankees are actually, if Stroman wants, because it's a player option in 26, and I don't know that Stroman could do better than $18 million in a couple of years. We'll see. They're into Stroman for the next 2 years. They're into Rodon for the next 4 after this. But they're only into Cortez for next year. I have greater faith in Cortez than Stroman or Rodon as a starting pitcher.
Fair enough.
He's the Jimmy Key type, which is whatever he has that day he has. He might get blown up, but he's not going to lose because he's afraid.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the mentality, he has it there. I mean, he, like you said, in that situation on Saturday against the Cubs, 8th inning, he looks really good. And it's like, all right, Weaver, we saw warming up. It's like, are they going to go to Weaver again for the save situation? No, let Nestor finish the game up, and it worked out. So again, it's that I
think they do have a tough decision, Ryan.
Yes.
In their bullpen, which is not fixable really at this point and has issues. Are you better off starting Cortez and relieving Schmidt or Gil, or starting Schmidt or Gil because it's just more important to get the outs on the front end than the back end? It's more important to get 15 to 18 outs than it is to get 3 to 6 at the end. I would start Cortez still and put Gil in the back, but Gil's never. That's probably not the right thing. Gil's never done it.
But Gil feels like a guy that could get 6 outs. He can close the 8th and 9th inning out.
The question though becomes: do you believe about Gil that he could warm up quickly enough to get into a game, and can he relieve in game 1 and game 4?
Yeah, I don't know. That's
because if he could only give you 2 innings in one game, in a series, then and you're talking about somebody they're into, like who they have they got control out of him for the next 4 or 5 years, and it looks like he might end up being the number 2 starter behind Cole if everything worked out perfect for them, right? So the last thing you want to do is blow him out now, even as you chase a championship. So it's not an easy. I don't want to make that one. There's some decisions we'll probably talk about during this show that will feel easy to me. That wouldn't feel easy. But if my pitching people believe that Gil could warm up quickly and bounce back after, say, throwing 30 to 40 pitches to do it again 3 days later, I think he'd be such a weapon to close out a game and maybe a series back there that I think about it. But maybe that happens in a 5-game series if he starts game 2. Is he available to give you 3 to 6 outs in a game 5?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joel, because the other thing I would get worried about too with Gil is if he gets too many pitches and walks people, how quick are they going to be pulling him and going to that bullpen in a close game situation? Because we know in the playoffs, the managers are so quick to pull their starters once they see a signs of trouble coming, and they're going to go to their bullpen. So it's definitely going to be something we're going to watch for the Yankees to play out. And now that Clark Schmidt and Gil are back up, it's like, how's this rotation going to play out? Because Netsor Cortez is supposed to get another start here in the next turnaround in the rotation. So definitely moving parts here. The other thing for real, not real for you, Joel, and for me that I wanted to ask you is the lineup. The offense struggled again this weekend, only scoring 5 runs in 3 games against Cubs. Did you attribute that more to playing in Chicago at Wrigley Field with the wind blowing in 30 miles per hour? Luis Gil did have some balls touched up against him that didn't go for home runs. I think Stan hit a ball yesterday or 2 days going up to the wall that might have been a home run. That wasn't. Now, do you attribute this just the Yankees offense got affected by the weather, or is there a little bit signs of concern here considering Judge has not hit well lately? And Juan Soto, the power hasn't been there, but the average is he's still hitting 300. How do you feel about this offense over this past weekend?
Yeah, look, I assume Judge and Soto will be Judge and Soto unless it's possible that Judge and Soto are 1,000 OPS and a 900 OPS guy, which means they're going to get their worst play the rest of this year to get to 1,000 and 900, right? They're great, but they were playing historically great for a while. So maybe we're seeing some regression to the mean, or we're seeing the impact of playing every day and being the weightlifters. I would still bet on Judge and Soto. I would seriously think about they have an off day today. We're doing this on a Monday. That over the next 2 days he gives one to Soto and one to Judge completely off. As critical as these games are, maybe to just see if they could. Those guys have really carried a lot of weight this season, and Judge has been playing center field
every day. And let me ask you that.
With Stanton back, you're not even using him as the DH as often as you were early. And I'm sure that was a good decision by Boone to use him as a DH a lot early to see if he could get, say, the last 30 games out of him in center field. But it's a lot to ask of the players. I think that our lineup problem is, I went and looked at this the other day because I kept looking at all these 600 OPSs in their lineup. And I'm like, for the Yankees have 9 players they've given 175 plate appearances to this year who have a sub OPS plus. So below 100. 9. It's the 4th most in baseball. Now, some of that isn't on the team anymore. It's Ben Rice. And some of it doesn't play much anymore in Grisham and LeMahieu. But Verdugo plays, Volpe plays, Gleyber Torres plays. They have, and you see what the problem becomes when Soto and Judge don't hit.
Yes.
There's a lot of empty calorie innings where they do nothing. There's not a sustained attack. And quite frankly, when Judge and Soto are hitting, when you don't have these players performing well, sometimes Judge and Soto don't get that 5th at bat because they're not. It's especially a problem in on-base percentage. I'm sure we'll talk about Verdugo later.
Yes.
Volpe's on-base percentage is stunning to me. I thought walks were going to be part of his game, and it just feels like deep at bats end up in strikeouts, not walks for him. And I think that's something that needs to get better for him along the way.
Yeah, it's part of his approach. He gets deep in counts, and then you're to your point, it ends more in strikeouts. He chases a lot of pitches.
Yes, there's a lot of walks to be had.
Yeah,
I'm going to throw this out there because it's a thought thing I've had, and I don't know the answer to it. So his swing reminds me a little bit of not a very big guy with that all-out swing of Pedroia, Dustin Pedroia. And I asked somebody the other day, like a hitting guy, I said, if Dustin Pedroia played today with how we know how to attack that kind of swing, would he be a lot less successful? And the guy said, that's a good question. He said, I believe so much in Dustin Pedroia that his competitiveness would lead him to adjustments. But I still think there are more adjustments Volpe's tried to make, and there are more there if he's going to be a complete player. But he's like one of those guys that kind of gets towards the bottom of the lineup, and there's a lot of 8-pitch innings now where it's like, that wasn't a very tough inning for the opposing pitcher.
No, I agree, Joel. You saw that against Andrew Heaney, too, which drove me nuts. The other thing with Judge in center field every day, and I think you bring up a good point, and I did want to ask you about the real, not real with him, too, is playing center field every day is very taxing on the body, and he's a big man. We know this already. But if there were some plays in center field against the Rangers series where he came up short, there was the quick, hesitation that led to another run. Is it wearing on him a little bit, considering how massive his season has been for him and how historic the season offensively has been for him and how much pressure is on Aaron Judge to win this year, right? Because I think that narrative is going to be there in the playoffs, especially how he performs, right, Joel? Because he carries it over from the regular season to the playoffs. How does he play? And playing center field is taxing, and there's a lot there that you still have to be on top of your game. Are we hitting that point of the season where it's like, maybe this guy needs a couple of days off his feet?
He could use it. He's not going to get it.
Right.
The games are too valuable. It's like the Yankees not taking care of business in certain ways this year, where they've left a lot on the table. And we keep talking about that. I still think they have the best record in the American League today, right? I think. But it feels like they still left a lot on the table. And if they're playing hard to the end, where they have to push Cole and they have to push Soto and they have to push Judge, there'll probably be a price paid in October for that as well. I don't think anything wears on Judge mentally. I think he's among the toughest mental players in the sport, but I do think it's worn on him physically. And look, there's a question for another day, but he's ultimately not a center fielder. Even at his best, he's average, and he hasn't been average, certainly the second half of this season. If you were making a Bobby Witt MVP argument, part of it would be Witt's all-around genius compared to Judge's kind of like willingness to play center field, but he's not particularly strong at it, and he's just such a great hitter. That would be the argument. But if you sign Soto long-term, who's playing where, how?
Yeah.
It isn't don't sign Soto, right? Like you're 3 years away from where Stanton's contract is off and somebody will DH more regularly and Stanton will get hurt every year, and that will be part of it. And they have a big left field. So it isn't like stick Judge in left field. He'd be beat up as much playing left field. The soft spot is right field to protect the guy. If you're going to protect him at Yankee Stadium. So I think they have a long-term question when and if they sign Soto. And I think the short-term answer is they can't take Judge off the field. They can't do it. He's just the menace possibility, even when he's struggling. Every time he comes to the plate in a one-run game, you're still thinking that's a good deal for the Yankees.
Yeah, I know Tommy's throwing this around, first base for Judge potentially, considering there is an opening
but
there.
That's a 2025 forward thing. They're not going to start doing that.
No, I know, not in the playoffs. And that, to your point, they're not going to take him out of center field. They're not playing Grisham anymore. They're not playing Oswaldo Cabrera anymore. So there's the question is this the lineup that you're seeing right now? They're playing consistently every day. This seems like the playoff roster and lineup that they're going to go with every day.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Joel, let's move to due up. So I had mentioned to you before about Brian Cashman. He spoke last week after Alex Verdugo, the outcry that Jason Dominguez didn't get called up when the rosters expanded. And, Verdugo, while he's hit better, quote unquote, if you want to call that, over a 300 batting average and over 300 on base percentage, he still doesn't hit many doubles, doesn't slug very well. And he's going to play left field solid to really good for you. And he's going to play the nonchalant baseball, to your point, Joel, where it's like, I'm going to give the effort when I want. And then there's other moments where you saw against Chicago where, what the hell are you looking at? Alex Verdugo running to second base on Anthony Rizzo, or I forgot who it was, center fly ball to center field.
Yeah.
And he gets caught going back to first. So it's like those plays happen with Alex Verdugo. But the bigger thing was Brian Cashman says that Alex Verdugo gives the Yankees the best chance to win every single day. So for due up, I asked you, what are 3 things, if you were calling the shots with the Yankees right now, that you would do to give the Yankees the best chance to win every single day?
Yeah, I don't have 3. I have 1.
And
it's that one. I do have to ask this question. So I wanted to go to the numbers. Since June 15th, flat out, since June 15th, which is 3 months now, Alex Verdugo has been the worst regular hitter in baseball. Not my opinion. Here are the numbers. His slash line since June 15th is a 205 batting average, a 271 on-base percentage, which are both bottom 10, and a 278 slugging, which is the worst in the majors for any qualified hitter in that time. In that time, that's 290 plate appearances. He has 2 homers and no stolen bases. In 3 months, he has a minus 0.6 WAR, which is the 3rd worst in the majors in that time. With runners in scoring position, since then, there's been 128 players have taken at least 60 plate appearances since June 15th with runners in scoring position. Alex Verdugo's slash line is the worst in all 3 categories. 123 batting average, 194 on base, 175 slugging percentage. Why he's still starting against lefty pitching? You'd have to tell me. 1 extra base hit versus a lefty since June 2nd. 1 since June 2nd, 114 plate appearances. Now, why don't we take Dominguez off the table? I don't want to take him off the table. You're telling me Oswaldo Cabrera wouldn't give more as an all-around player than Alex Verdugo has. Before we even get to the Dominguez one, I would argue Trent Grisham would give.
I was going to say Trent Grisham
would give you more than
give you
that,
more. He'd walk.
Than this. I wouldn't want to see him on the field, but this is pitcher level hitting and not a shortstop or catcher. And I appreciate how tough left field is at Yankee Stadium, but your left fielder can't produce like this for 3 months. Now let's deal with the Dominguez issue. If you do not think Dominguez could outperform this, then I don't believe you when you tell me that you think Dominguez is a great prospect. I don't believe you. You told me Peraza was a great prospect, and then you didn't play him over Isaiah Kiner-Falefa in kind of the same situation in 2022. You kept telling me about these defensive metrics, and I say, did you guys have fucking eyes? This guy is yippy in big spots. He's not going to field the ball well in big spots. And it was, now maybe you'll get a repeat. I think it was like the last week in September, they started to play Peraza. And then it became amateur hour in the postseason where they started 3 guys at shortstop in 8 games.
Yeah, didn't they start Cabrera more at shortstop?
Yes. They started Cabrera at shortstop, Kiner-Falefa. And once they were down 3-0 to Houston, the player they love Peraza, right? But they didn't play him over Kiner-Falefa. Then they let Volpe jump him in spring training last year. They've never traded Gleyber Torres to put him at second base. Last year, when both Donaldson and Rizzo were hurt, Brian Cashman said after the season there was no place to play Peraza. What do you mean? You put LeMahieu at first and you put Peraza at third. Of course there's a place to play him. You decided that you want to play Jake Bauers at first base. Like Jake Bauers, but you love Peraza. You kept telling me you love Peraza. Like I last saw Peraza like on a wanted poster now. So when you tell me you love Dominguez, and I read you these numbers since June 15th for a player that the manager describes as beat up to explain why he's giving half-ass effort some of the time. And by the way, I do think sometimes players are beat up.
Absolutely.
I don't think Paul O'Neill ran out every ground ball with any fervor, and Robinson Cano didn't run out every ground ball with every fervor. But the exchange for those guys was they hit great. And so you kind of do this. I don't like, there's a major league effort you should give running to first base. It doesn't have to be 100%. O'Neill felt below it. Cano felt below it, but they were great hitters. I'm watching a beat-up version of Alex Verdugo, even if I buy that alibi that he's beat up. So is Aaron Judge. So is Juan Soto. Everyone's beat up. It's freaking September in baseball. And I just, look, maybe Verdugo has started to contact the ball and it's begun to land. And it's funny. I think I mentioned this on a show recently, and somebody, I always want to give credit because it's not mine. I think on a show recently, I said, has anybody ever grounded out to the right side more than this guy? And then somebody recently had a stat that he's just about to break the record since StatCast.
I have that stat. So Alex Verdugo on September 7th, I didn't check his last couple of days, but on September 7th, he was 2 ground outs away. This is from Seth Warner. He's 2 ground outs away from tying the StatCast era since 2015 for the record for most ground outs to the right side in a single season, three-way tie with 111 right now. The Yankees have 20 games left to play after today. Now they're down to 18 games left to play.
Right. So
he's going to surpass that tremendously.
So Verdugo has been dropped to 9th in the lineup. He's a free agent who you're almost certainly not bringing back at the end of the year. I'm missing the allegiance.
The allegiance to him, and then you're willing to demote guys. And I get this is a different conversation, but you're willing to demote a guy like Clay Holmes. Well, I understand it's a different situation, right? You're talking about closing a baseball game, but a guy that you brought up, that you traded for, that you developed into the closer, and he showed you he could be an all-star. You're willing to demote him right away and pull that trigger on him, but in the most critical moments here in September. But then you're telling me the guy who's the worst qualified hitter in the last 3 months of the baseball, all of baseball, you're keeping him in, and he's giving you the best chance to win.
They've put LeMahieu on the bench now, where they've accepted it's not going to happen for him, and they have a commitment to him beyond this season for 2 more years. I think we've seen this before with the Yankees. It's why I said before, like with Clay Holmes. Clay Holmes is my closer. He's my closer. He's my closer. He's not my closer. I do wonder, is there a day coming up with Verdugo where he's our left fielder, he's our left fielder, he's a left fielder. Oh, Jason Dominguez is here. I do wonder, Ed. But I think he should be getting major league at bats now. And if he's not, I think they're making a much bigger statement about Jason Dominguez than Alex Verdugo. Because if you're telling me that Jason Dominguez cannot outperform what this player has done for 3 months, then he's not that good a prospect. He's not that good.
Is it possible they don't trust Dominguez in left field at Yankee Stadium?
Maybe, but then release Grisham, keep Verdugo, and if you're leading late, put Verdugo in left field.
Or then you're going to deal with the mental gymnastics of
put Grisham in left field.
Right.
And by the way, if you're not going to do any of it, put Cabrera out there. He can't. These numbers are pitcher hitting numbers for 3 months. He has a 278 slugging percentage for 3 months. It's the worst in baseball, Ryan. It's the worst. Now, maybe their faith will pay off. I always use the Graham Lloyd story from 96, but it was a much smaller sample size. They trade for Graham Lloyd. He has like a 17 ERA it looks like he's never pitched before. And then for some reason, like people like me, are you putting him on the postseason roster? Are you out of your mind? And they simply don't win the World Series without him. He was great. So I always leave open the possibility of regeneration and a couple of big moments where he pops a ball. But this is not a small sample size. Mm-mm. This is not a week, and it's not even a month, and it's not even 2 months. For 3 months, Verdugo has been the worst hitter in baseball. And if you do not think your top prospect at AAA can outperform this, the guy who has been this hyped, are you afraid to throw him into a pennant race? Got it. But thrown into a pennant race, is it going to be worse than this? Maybe. It might be. And everyone's stuff is on the line. But we've just seen this before, where when the Yankees make a decision, it takes them a long time to get out of it, where it's like, Gleyber Torres is a shortstop. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is a shortstop. Gary Sanchez is better behind the plate than you say he is. And then at some point, they agree with public sentiment, but by then, hundreds of games have gone by. And you sit and go, I appreciate your
convictions,
patience, convictions, but did you make a decision about a player and you are going to be obstinate to the point of, it's Josh Donaldson. It's like they've done this a lot.
Aaron Hicks. It's Josh Donaldson. Yeah.
They've done this a lot where they've lost, where at some point it feels like they're dug in on their assessment of a player, and that they're card counters, and over the long haul, if you play the game right, you will win money. But that's why I go back 3 months. This is not an insignificant period of time. This has been a bad player for 3 months. Will he now be good from the middle of September until whenever the Yankees stop playing in October? Maybe, but it's 3 months. And again, that's why I say you are telling me so much more about what you really think about Jason Dominguez. Really think. What you really think about Peraza. For 3 years where you told me you love Peraza, but every chance you had to play Peraza, somehow you played someone else. So I go back to what I said at the beginning of the show. I don't watch your mouth. I watch your actions. What you say to me means nothing. What you do means everything. And what you're doing is deciding that Jason Dominguez is not better than a guy who's been the worst player in the major leagues for the last 3 months.
Is it possible, Joel? And I know I'm going back to what you and Cash had that little back and forth last year at the end of the season. Is it possible Cashman's still going to go back to Volpe won the spring training job, right? Like when we had the chance to give Peraza the opportunity. I know the playoffs was a different thing, right? Like that for them. And they're saying, Volpe won the job. Dominguez, he's coming back from an injury. Those are the reasons why we're not calling him back. We feel he needs more time to learn in the minors at AAA because he hasn't got enough, at bats down there. And the majors is a huge jump, and especially if we're going to be going into this postseason chase. And is there a chance that the Yankees could also say, listen, in September, he's batting almost 300. His he might not be slugging, but he's getting on base over 300. This is who we traded for, a good left fielder that gets on base and bats 300 for us somewhat. He's a light hitting left fielder. And that's ultimately the defense they're going to have. That's what it feels like.
But,
and I think,
but Cashman said recently, Ryan, that Dominguez is ready. There's no place to play.
There's no lane. He says no lane. Well, that's what Boone said. There's no lane for him every day.
So I can't accept that, again, unless they're being untruthful, that they think he still needs more at-bats back from Tommy John. He is described. Look at it this way. If Alex Verdugo had pulled a hamstring today, they'd call up Dominguez, right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, if they didn't call up Dominguez then think about the statement.
Right. Then we have something really to talk about.
So the question just becomes this. Do you believe from this moment forward, because the Yankees are playing for everything. Yankees are good enough to win a World Series. They're bad enough to get eliminated in a wild card round in 2 days. And think about all the stuff we'll be talking about if that happens. But the way baseball's being played this year, remember, is all the stuff we talking about with the Yankees, they still have the best record in the American League. So imagine the show we'd be doing about the Orioles or the Guardians or, the Astros. Or pick your team, right? So they have flaws, but they have excellence also.
Right. The opportunity is there.
The opportunity is there. So if I was just sitting in a room with all of the Yankee officials and I was Hal Steinbrenner, I would say, here's my 7 people I trust the most for baseball decisions. I'm going to go around the room, and my question is going to be, from today forward, who helps us win more? Alex Verdugo or Jason Dominguez? That's it. Who helps us win more? Because we're in it for everything. Everyone's feelings are out the window. You've got to explain to Alex Verdugo why you're either releasing him or putting him on the bench. That's what we'll do. But from this day until the last moment of our season, whenever that is, who helps us win more games? And I go around that room and I poll. And I go, all right, if it's 7-0 Verdugo, we'll stick with Verdugo. If it's 4-3 Verdugo, we'll stick with Verdugo. But if it's not, what are we doing here? Because we're playing for everything. We're playing for everything. And you just can't do this. If the guy has been a bad baseball player for 3 months and he's being described as beat up by a manager to defend him for not playing hard. And in the past, when players haven't played hard, the exchange was, well, at least they're great players. That hasn't happened here. And so maybe he's about to get hot. Maybe there's another Graham Lloyd situation where we'll look back and go, wow, the Yankees were really smart for sticking with that guy. But there's a lot of evidence here to suggest that either he shouldn't be playing or the Yankees think a lot less internally of Jason Dominguez than they're letting on.
Or there's a third option there, Joel. The Yankees have the wrong people running the team right now, and they just don't know that they don't know what they're doing right now. And they clearly are. They're making decisions that are wrong, again, to your point about Peraza, Volpe, Aaron Hicks, Josh Donaldson, get Clay Holmes situation, and now we go to Alex Verdugo. The evidence is there, to your point, but hey, we got one of the best records in baseball because we got Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, two of the best offensive players in baseball, and we got the guy Garrett Cole as an ace. I don't know, Joel. It's a very top-heavy roster to what we talked about all the time, and the flaws get covered up by it. So we'll see. We'll see how the stretch plays down. I want to go to Radio Irrational quick, where I gave you my Radio Irrational take. My Radio Rational take is Austin Wells should be the everyday catcher in the postseason. I think we know this, Joel, but that it should go without saying. This guy is an offensive rookie of the year. I mean, a rookie of the year candidate in the AL, in my opinion. The season he's put together and the fact that he's also throwing runners out, that throw to Pete Crow-Armstrong to get him out at second base against the Cubs was impressive as hell. He looks much better defensively, in my opinion, and he's caught two of the last Garrett Cole games. And Garrett Cole's looked really good in both of those games. And I know that's become a big narrative of, Garrett Cole likes his catchers. He has a personal preference. He loves Jose Trevino in the way he frames. But, I mean, you can't deny Garrett Cole's pitched really well in the last two times that Wells has caught him. And you're talking about a guy who's now batting cleanup a lot in these situations behind Judge and Soto. So, I mean, I think Austin Wells is your third best position player right now on this team.
Yeah, without injury, and unless he shows like either mental or physical kind of exhaustion, which might happen because I think he's going to play a lot to the end of the season. The Yankees are going to try their hardest to win the division. I see no reason to start anybody else in the postseason. This is the easiest Radio Irrational you'll ever have. It's like he's at worst their fourth or fifth best player, and he's lefty diversification. He seems clearly unafraid to take a big at bat. I always go back to it. You're playing for everything. You got to have guys who are not overwhelmed by the moment. Look, we've waited a couple of years here where we keep hearing that Volpe is going to get better offensively. You know who got better offensively? Austin Wells.
Hell yeah. Joel, since him being in the cleanup spot, he's got 113 plate appearances. I didn't take yesterday's into the count, but he was batting .316. An average 381 on base percentage, 531 slug, and a 911 OPS. Those are all top 5 in Major League Baseball.
He takes good. It's like from the beginning of, I was on this from the beginning of the season.
No, I know.
Like the at bats are always good. Like yesterday, he flies out into the IV.
Yep.
Into left center in a big spot. Like, I mean, he hit the ball great. It's an out, but it also could have won the game.
Yep.
It was hit so well, and he just takes good, unflappable at bats. And yeah, I think they might have. It's short of a star, but more than average player, which would be again the better first round draft choice. Everything we thought about Volpe, he might be. He might be the first round draft choice that really hits.
He's been a lot of fun to watch all year long.
And by the way, this sounds like a bash Volpe thing. I still think there's ceiling for Volpe. That he's still a young player. I think he's caught between a lot of theory about how he should play. I think he's a diligent player. I think he cares a great deal. I think he loves being a Yankee. And if you told me at 26, 27, there's a Jarren Duran path for him, like where he's like, oh, he's really good at everything, but it took him to 26 or 27 to kind of like fix the rough edges. I would believe that about him, but he's also open the possibility that this is it, that there's always going to be some refinement needed in the swing. It's going to be a little guy with a big swing, and it's not going to get quite everything you thought it was going to get.
Volpe's he's 23 years old, right? I mean, he's still young. He's still young.
I think he might grow into some man body muscle like that, turn some stuff, and it might, there was hardly any AAA. So maybe he needs 1,500, 2,000 major league plate appearances to kind of get to where the Yankees want him to be, the Yankee fan base wants him to be. He's still generally an asset. He's a good defender. He's a good base runner. He's an incredibly durable player. So he has assets. He's not a zero asset player. And when he's hot, he's hot.
Yep.
And we've seen that has great value. And I think there's upside. Wells has gotten to an upside on both sides of the ball a lot faster and to places where I don't know that people thought he'd get.
No, I think that's That's what's been a pleasant surprise for Yankees fans is, Austin Wells. There was the platoon between him and Trevino to start the season, and Trevino got hurt, but you saw the quality, to your point, which you spoke about all year long with him. You're like, I want to see Austin Wells more. We've seen him more, and he's earned it. And it's been one of the bright spots for the Yankees besides Soto and Judge is seeing Austin Wells penciled in as that cleanup hitter, and he's been doing damage in that spot. All right, Joel, let's go to Hogan Analytics. We're going to bring in our guy, Tommy Hogan. He's going to give us some stats. What's up, Tommy?
What's up, guys? Before I get into Hogan Analytics, you guys have talked a lot about the aftermath in that Tuesday loss, that gut punch loss that is now brought up the whole bullpen and Clay Holmes stuff. But I did want to get into a decision that I thought was the first domino in that game turning into the way it did. Aaron Boone, we saw DJ LeMahieu botch a routine ground ball at first base, lets the lead base runner on, and everything took off from there. I think when a team sees something like that, you start thinking, and a team that's blown already 10, like they've had 10 blown saves from their closer, the bullpen's been an issue. You see a routine ground ball like that, you can't help but in your mind go, oh my God, here we go again. And then Anthony Rizzo in the next inning pinch hits for DJ LeMahieu because you're thinking, oh, he must not be available today.
Did we do this? Did we do this on the show last week, or did I do this on the podcast?
You brought it up a little bit on the show, but I did want to get into it with you a little bit on here, Joel, of just how does he not bring in Rizzo for defense?
My suspicion, if I remember it, and it's about 10 days old now or so, but my guess would be the Yankees are winning 4-1. Rizzo's coming back from an injury, and he's thinking, I'm trying to give Rizzo a full day off. And so he doesn't put him in the field with a 4-1 lead, thinking he's going to get through it. But when it's 4-3, he's going to use him as a pinch hitter.
Is there really a difference?
Tommy, I didn't say this is what I would do. You asked me what I think he was doing. And I think that's what he was doing. I think there was I think the inning before Chisholm doesn't pick up the third base coach waving him, which makes it 5-1. And by the way, Holmes isn't even makes it 5-1. Then LeMahieu made a thing, and Glaber had a ball hit to him that should have been a double play, right?
Yes.
He didn't get his 200th error this year. A ball just got by him, and it should have been 2 outs, none on. Instead, 2 runs come in. So at the end of the 8th inning that day, it should be 5-1. Instead, it's 4-3, and he's using Rizzo and he's using Holmes. And he's probably planned to use neither 15 minutes earlier.
Right. I don't want to. You're probably right. That's the reason they would give you. But I don't understand why there would be a difference in pinch hitting philosophy between a 4-1 game and a 4-3 game. Like, if you're going to pitch hit Rizzo in a 4-3 game, why wouldn't you pitch hit him in a 4-1 game?
Tommy, I'm with you. Once the calendar hits September 1st and you hadn't cleared the Orioles, I'm in everyone's feelings are about to be hurt. I'm playing every day. I can't play it like an absolute playoff game because there's still a lot of road to go. But I am playing as close to playoff baseball as possible. I thought the other day, the Saturday game I covered, the Met game, I thought Carlos Mendoza's bullpen management of the game was as aggressive as you see during a regular season. He felt the moment, and he kind of went after the game. And I think that has to be the philosophy for everyone. Mets, Yankees, Orioles, Guardians, Royals, everyone who's kind of playing for something late this year. I do think one of the things the analytic world has brought in is this idea of like patience over the 162. You'll get the cards right. Right. Got it. But the argument I always make when one of these guys says a game in April is worth the same as a game in September, I go, yes, in the standings. But we don't know the meaning of a game in April. We know the meaning of every game right now. Like, oh, the magic number is this. The game's left or that. Shit, they lost this game tonight, and they have to fly cross country and play while the other team is going to play the White Sox or something like that. And so the pressure, as somebody who's there, the pressure changes because you know the meaning. It's not some broad canvas of possibility. And so everything would go out the window If I have a chance to drop a hammer, I'm dropping a hammer. I'm using my best players a lot. That's why you rest them for 5 months at opportune times and piss off fans, right? Like, why isn't the guy playing in May? Well, I understand it in May. I don't understand it today.
Joel, I'm glad you brought up Carlos Mendoza, because that is where I wanted to take the conversation of bringing up this Aaron Boone decision. He's a guy, aggressive bullpen management right now. He also thinks about those. He's a step ahead, where it doesn't feel like it's now 2 weeks in a row I've brought up an Aaron Boone decision where it doesn't feel like he's a step ahead. And those are the sort of things that can cost you. A manager can cost a game in October, is not making these little decisions, and it all of a sudden is the first domino in blowing a game. But when Carlos Mendoza was on the Yankee staff the last 4 or 5 years, it didn't feel like those decisions were being made still. And I
think bench coach is like a window dressing job mainly. And it's also why
the manager job.
Earlier in the show, I asked, is Aaron Boone a wartime consigliere? I think he has the kind of team that he's got to be aggressive with. I think their postseason roster should get down to 12 pitchers, maybe even 11, but 12. And I would get like Duke Ellis back on the team and be a wartime consigliere. It's like, oh, it's after the 7th inning and Stanton is on, or Rizzo is on, or, the catcher is on, and it's a 3-3 game. And go. And I would have him and Birdie, and I would be, again, Legion bowling the pitching, because I think that's the kind of team they are this year, around 3 historically great players. And you've got to be, you can't play the freaking lane game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the last I brought up, it was the DJ LeMahieu stuff last week against the Nationals, not pinch hitting him one night and pinch hitting him the other. Like, you're starting to lose a little bit of faith, or seeing some decisions by Aaron Boone lose you a little bit of faith come down the stretch that is going to.
But Tommy, I will say this, is if you were not a Yankee fan and you were even a Met fan, certainly I see it. I get plenty of emails from Met fans who say Carlos Mendoza sucks, and they'll point out stuff that he does. Mendoza. And if you were an Oriole fan, you'd be like, how is Brandon Hyde doing this? And it's just the nature of this, which is you're really focused on a singular team, and you see the warts of it. Big picture, the Yankees generally win a lot of games for Aaron Boone. I do think that has not been true at this time of year, and I think you guys know I'm a guy who tries to pick my words carefully, and I am asking, is he a wartime consigliere? Because he hasn't been in the postseason, and he's going to have to be for the rest of this month if they're going to win the division. And in October, I think he has to be an activist manager, willing to do the thing that he is against the thing he is best at, which is good relationships with players.
I was just about to say,
you got to have to do a couple of more Nestor Cortez. Sorry your feelings hurt. We'll see how we could deal with diaper rash the rest of the month, but we're going to have to do what we think is right, because, I mean, he's not signed for next year, Aaron Boone. Like, he's got an option, and I assume like the general manager and owner like him a great deal, and that really matters. But he should probably be managing as if it's not just a long World Series gap, but his job might be on the line. And I don't think he should go down managing, because that was what Mike Fishman would have done.
Well, we're going to find out, because Legion Ball, if they go in the Legion Ball direction, he's going to have a lot of decisions to make with that bullpen, with the pitching, and that's kind of where Hogue Analytics goes here. You talked a lot about Nestor Cortez. He had 4 1/3 hitless shutout innings in relief Saturday against the Cubs. That's a save. If he comes in with a lead, that's a save, regardless of the score. It's the second such outing of Nestor's career where he's thrown 4+ innings of relief, shutout innings of relief. The first one was his 3rd ever appearance with the Yankees in May of 2019. you guys talked about the piggyback bullpen role is how Yankee fans, we fell in love with Nestor. We liked the funkiness coming out. They did it. We saw it a lot with Chad Green. I believe it was 2019. That was a spot in the rotation. But Joel, the characteristic what is the characteristic you always bring up when we talk about Nestor Cortez? He's not afraid of the moment. The characteristic in the bullpen that you need, or for this specific spot in the bullpen, that's closer. That speaks closer to me, is not afraid of the big moment. You need a guy to not be afraid of the big moment. The Luke Weaver stuff is 1-for-1 now. Why can't we throw Nestor Cortez's hat in the ring for the closer? Because I know Legion Ball, we want to do that. But if you can do Legion Ball in September to figure out those solidified roles for October, isn't that the better option than Legion Ball in October?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't use Cortez as a reliever if I have him and I think he's durable. I want to use him to attack. Sometimes the close is in the 6th inning. I want to use him in leverage. And that leverage might be the 9th inning, Tommy. It might be the 8th and 9th inning. But Legion Ball does not have a closer. It has who is best for the moment. And I think that they have not really solidified an order with their bullpen all year. Such is life. They don't have that kind of relief core. Like with the Astros, it's going to go, if everyone's healthy, Presley, Abreu, Hader. That's how it's going to go. The Yankees don't have that lineup. And
they had that lineup, Joel, until Clay kind of was the dominant. It was Canely or Cousins, depending right, lefty lane. You don't like the lanes, obviously. And then it was Weaver, Clay. They did have an order going until it's now falling apart on them.
Yeah, but it's an order where you don't really feel great about that order.
I agree.
So I'd play Legion Ball.
I get it. No, and that's probably what they're going to. My thought is,
I don't think it's what they're going to do. I don't think they have the balls to do it. How about this? I think by October 1st, Clay Holmes will be closing again.
Interesting. Now that's a take. That is it. I thought we were going to see him. I
think they're going to regenerate him here. Think he's fine.
Right. We've seen him.
And you will see Cousins or Canely, Weaver, and Holmes the first time they have a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th situation. That's just a guess. We'll see. I mean, if Holmes keeps imploding,
right,
that won't happen. But I think if Holmes gets his act together, they'll all feel most comfortable doing that.
And that's usually how it goes with closers, right? Like you put them in the 6th, 7th inning, you kind of build, like the Mets did it with Edwin Diaz already this season. You build them back up into that role. They've done it with Aroldis Chapman before, but I don't know. I mean, so you don't think that they're putting in Weaver and giving him a shot to win that role? It's just you've got to have it now.
I don't think they're giving him a shot to win that role. I think he might end up in that role, but I don't. I think that I think they should do one thing, and I think they'll gravitate to another thing.
It'll be interesting. They've got a lot of starters that should be in the bullpen where you're kind of going to be forced to do Legion Ball because you trust those guys more than the relievers, even though they haven't pitched in that role before. But we'll see. It wouldn't shock me. I thought Friday we were going to see Clay back up somehow because that's just how this thing goes, is that he would have been warming up. We'll see.
We will see.
By the next time we'll talk, Clay Holmes will have a save situation. I'll see you next week, Tommy.
Thanks, Tommy.
Yeah.
All right, Joel, let's go to Joel's notebook. I had asked you beforehand about the NFL season. You had mentioned it as well. This is that time of year, I think it's a great point by you that every day it's going to be important. Hopefully the Jets can save New York football because it doesn't seem like it's going to go well for the Giants. But for you and your time in covering this great sport, it's that weird time. It's that funky time where it's like, hey, the Yankees and Mets are in these playoff races. Yankees and Mets fans are still going to be paying attention and watching every single game, but football still has a big audience. But I just wanted to know if there was anything that comes to mind in your time in covering the sport about football and starting up in this fall, like start of fall era.
Yeah, maybe not just at the start, because ultimately what happens in the baseball season, especially if you cover a team that goes deep enough, is hockey season begins and then basketball season begins. and all four are playing, and baseball is playing its most important games, and you could argue all the other sports are playing their least important games. But, you know, people get diverted, you know, like people who are Met fans or diehard Jet fans and Islander fans or whatever. And, you know, Yankee fans traditionally are Giant fans and Ranger fans and Knicks fans. So you do it. So just when I think about football and baseball, I think about pre-working at the Post, which is forever ago now. In 1986, I was at United Press International at UPI. And on the Saturday night of the World Series, I was actually the guy in the office. My mom was a professional typist. She taught me how to type. Back when you could be a professional typist, somebody who typed labels because they could really go fast. And I could fly on a keyboard. I could do well over 100 words a minute and go. And pre-laptop, people had to dictate from the stadiums. And I often was sitting in the spot to take dictation because I'm pretty calm in the storm, right? And I could go fast. And so I did game 6, the Buckner game. Like we had a lead, you know, a wire service lead. Dave Henderson, the hero, New England has waited 6 decades for, hit a 2-run homer off of Rick Aguilar, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly the game doesn't. That was Saturday night. Game 7 was supposed to be Sunday. It was rained out. So when I was out of the office there, I was the Jet beat writer and did backup football if the Giants played on a Monday night. And the Giants played Monday night that year against Washington, same night as Game 7 of the World Series. So I'm at the Meadowlands, right, doing sidebars. We had a Giant beat writer, Dave Raffo from UPI back then, Semper Fi Dave. And the Mets are playing, and it's a big game. Like this year, Giants win the Super Bowl, and the Redskins are probably the second best team in the league. And so they're playing each other for like first place in late October, I think. Like who's going to be the dominant team in the NFC East? And there's this, and everyone in the crowd, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, there were these Watchmans, where people had little televisions. You saw the antennas.
I've seen
everywhere.
I've seen them.
Crowd. If you didn't have one of those, you had a Walkman on. If you didn't have that, you had a transistor radio still. The crowd was diverted. There's 80,000 people in the old Meadowlands, but it's Game 7 of the World Series. And the Giants, the diehards, there's 80,000 freaking people in the stadium. And there's a big moment in the game where the Redskins have the ball. And Ray Knight hits the big homer in the game. And so at this bizarre moment, just before the ball is snapped, there's this thunderous outburst at the wrong time for the game that's actually being played in front of everyone. And Joe Jacoby false starts for Washington. And it happened like a few more times during the game where, you know, ultimately I think Strawberry hits a homer, the crowd goes crazy, and then ultimately the Mets win and the crowd goes crazy. And it didn't coincide. But the big one was Jacoby jumping off sides. And again, I was the sidebar guy. So instead of being in the Giant locker room after the game, I was in Washington's locker room after the game. And I had to do the, hey, Joe, you know, kind of like so. And I'll just say that Joe Jacoby did not have a sense of humor about everyone having a Walkman and being diverted attention-wise on the game in being held in across the Hudson River in Queens. And yeah, so that was, I actually want to say, I remember the night. I think it was October 27th, 1986.
What's fascinating about that moment, Joel, is that, you know, you're talking about a way different time, right? Like before Tommy and I was born. For you, in that moment, when you're in the press box, right, and you're watching the Giants game and you hear these thunderous moments, are you guys hearing on like radio? How are you getting the information that the Mets, or do you have it on TV? Okay, I wasn't sure if you had the TV in the press box.
There's televisions in the press box, and like you know, that's when organizations get obstinate. Also, it's like, hey, you're at a football game.
Exactly.
You're only going to put the football on. It's like,
yes.
Hey, asshole, it's Game 7 of the World Series in New York, and it isn't like Kansas City and St. Louis. New York is playing. Can you put one freaking television on? So we were aware there wasn't this, right?
I know, that's what I'm saying.
You couldn't watch the game on this. You couldn't follow it on Twitter or something like that. You were at the complete mercy. And there were people in the press box also that had
Walkman's in?
headsets on and were listening, or Walkmans, and were watching at their like workspace. So there was a little like of the diversion.
Less people watching that Giants game while diverting watching the Mets game.
It's hard to believe. That's 40 years ago now.
Yeah.
38 years, right?
38.
Ago. But yeah, that's probably like the one. Like I have other ones because when you cover baseball, you get blown up by the other sports at both ends of it, which is at the biggest games for baseball, the other three major sports are playing. And at the beginning of baseball, you got the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the biggest games in the NHL and the NBA.
NHL and NBA.
You have the NFL draft. And like you have certain things that you know are going to be like, wow, I covered a great game today. Where in the section will I be buried? But yeah, that's probably my strongest football baseball memory was Joe Jacoby jumping the snap count.
False start. Or no, offside, right?
He jumped. Yeah.
Jumped, yeah.
I assume they called it a procedure thing, but yeah. But yeah, that was late October 1986.
Well, Joel,
different life ago. Back when I was good.
Look where you are now.
When I was good looking.
No, stop. Hang on. No, come on.
Should have seen me in 86.
Listen, look where you are now. You're doing multimedia. You're doing TV on MLB Network. You got the show. You got Pinstripe Post. You got the Post itself. I mean, you're covering it all. And we appreciate you as always breaking all this Yankees baseball down with us. Yankees got the Royals, and then they got the Red Sox before. So that'll be interesting to see how we get into that discussion next week. But as always, man, thank you so much.
All right, Ryan, all the best.